All right, so this is your e-collar. We're going to be going over a few things with the e-collar. All right, first thing we're going to go over is right here in the back, we have a few notices. So the first notice that we're going to go over is about a possible metal allergy. Okay, just like some humans, dogs can get a metal allergy. Some people can't wear silver or gold. These contact points have nickel in them, nickel and zinc. And what this would present like is the spot where the e-collar is setting, you might see some red bumps, maybe a little scabbing. Um, we haven't actually seen any issues with this with your dog. And like I said, it's very rare. Out of the, what are we at now? About 180 dogs that we've trained so far, I've only had 3 that have issues with them. And two of them were boxers and one of them was a pit. So it's usually short-haired dogs. Athena's a very short-haired dog, but I haven't seen any issues with it. If you do notice that there is some redness where it's setting, it could be multiple things. It could be the metal allergy, but it also could be that it was loose and she was kicking it and it was rubbing it and it was causing sores. So what I want you to do is take it and put it on the other side. Make sure it's actually tight. That way it can't move around. And if you continue to have issues, let me know. We do have different contact points. They're made out of titanium, but they are expensive, so we don't just normally give them out. But like I said, we've only had 3 dogs that had issues, and I haven't seen anything out of her in the 2 weeks that she's been here. So I think you should be fine. You will see that she'll scratch at it every once in a while because it's weird. It's on her neck. She's not used to it. So she is going to scratch at it, like, get this thing off of me. But she's perfectly fine with it. Next thing that I want you to look at is about water damage. Okay, they say that this will actually float, and the dogs can wear this in the water. Okay, um, the big key is making sure you close the charging port here. Like I said, they say it's waterproof. I'm gonna say that it's water resistant because no matter what, water's going to find a way into something. So I'm not just gonna say chuck it in the pond and come back 2 weeks later and try to get it. But if you do drop it, you should be fine, but always be cautious. My dogs have worn their e-collars while they've been in the water, while they've gone swimming. Now, the great thing about this e-collar is it's not like the old school shock collars. This thing is like a TENS unit. So it uses a very, very low voltage to just tense the muscle to get the dog's attention. So this will actually work in the water. It won't intensify or anything because it's not using a real current, a real high voltage or anything. So if your dog's out in the middle of the lake and you're yelling at them and they just can't hear you, you can use this just to get the dog's attention and get them to come back. Now the thing is, when they are wet, when they get out of the water, I would suggest just taking the collar off and drying their neck. That way, there's less chance of it sliding around and just causing a rash or something. Because water, we know, makes things slippery. We don't want it just moving around on their neck. Next thing that we're going to go over is our warranty right here. You do have a 2-year warranty. They are awesome about replacing parts. What they won't replace is if it's water damaged or if a dog's chewed it up. But if it's a manufacturer issue, a button stops working, your dial stops moving, or something weird, they are awesome about actually replacing things. If you give them a call, their phone number is right here. What they will need is your serial number. Um, a lot of people like to take this sticker off and put it in your book. That way you can just keep a hold of the book and get rid of this silly box. So just make sure you know where that serial number is. Um, I've had times where like the magnet that's in this remote has dislodged and it wasn't working with turning the e-collar itself on, which I'll explain how it works. But what they did, they sent me a brand new remote in a box with a label, and I sent the old one back to them and they replaced it. I got it within like 3 or 4 days. So like I said, they are awesome at replacing things. If you're having issues getting a hold of them or just dealing with them in general, we are dealers. So just yell at me. I will take care of it and just be that mediator if you are having some issues. Throw this back in here. We have a few tools here to talk about with it. This right here is your charger. Awesome thing about it is you only have to take up one outlet. It is split, so and they're identical. So it doesn't matter which one you plug into which. Okay, what I want you to think about is think of this like your cell phone to your dog. Your cell phone you charge every night. We want to charge this every night. They say it lasts up to 48 hours. I've actually had it last a little longer, but I've also had it die on me in the middle of training. So if you charge it every night, you should not have any issues. Okay. You have this awesome lanyard right here. A lot of women's clothes don't have pockets. So a lot of my ladies like to put the lanyard on the remote. That way they have it with them. You want to have this close to you. That way if you need to use it as a correction, you have it and you can use it. If the dog's doing something bad and it takes you a minute to find the remote, by that time the dog's already forgot about what the heck you're correcting them about. They have a very short attention span, so you want to make sure that if you're going to use it as a correction, it's within a few seconds of the dog doing what they did wrong. And here we have the long hair contact points. This is for like your Goldies, your Huskies, things like that. Athena, she won't need these because she's obviously doesn't have very much hair. Right here we have a couple other things. This thing right here is just a little pry tool. That way if you drop this and it gets dirty, you can pop this off and clean it off. The great thing about these things are interchangeable. If you saw our wall over there, we have a lot of different colors. You can mix and match and make it whatever you want. You can make it cute. You can make it handsome. You can do whatever you want with it. We have a lot of options. This right here is your little socket. That way if you do need to replace the contact points or you've gotten a bunch of hair that's built up under it or anything, you just take this and loosen it. Once you loosen it, take it off with your finger though, because it could get stuck in there. So just loosen it, take it off, screw it back on, and then tighten it back up with your tool. This little thing right here we'll go over in a second, but it's a little light. Now, let's go over your collar itself. Cool thing is, it has no buttons. The dog can't kick it and turn it off. What it does have is this little red dot right here is a magnet, and the little red dot on here is a magnet. On this red cover, it's a little hard to see, but it's right here on the side that your tone button is on. And I'll explain what the tone button is here in a minute, but it is right there. You take the two dots, you touch them together, and it's like magic. It turns on. Okay? Now, right now it's flashing green. Green means it's 50 to 100% charged. There's a yellow amberish that means it's 25 to 50% charged, and a red that means it's 0 to 50% charged, 0 to 25% charged. Okay? Now, they say that this will last up to 48 hours, like I said, but we want to charge it every night. That way, if we need it, we know it's there. Now, let's move on to our remote. All right, with your remote, you've got this big button right here on the back. It has an L on it, which stands for a light, and I'll show you what that is in a minute, but it's also an on and off button. So if you press and hold it down, it will turn on. Okay, and let's see that L button. So let's say your dog's out running around in the dark, and you want to see where your dog's at. My kids do this all the time. They call it my dog's headlight, but if you press it, that becomes a strobe light. If you press it a second time, it's a solid light. So you'll see a light just bouncing around the yard. It's kind of funny to see. But like I said, my kids do it randomly just to see it happen. So on here, it is flashing 1D. What that stands for is one dog system. Okay, so this technically can be set up to where this remote works with two different collars. I never suggest actually doing that. That way, if you have one dog that works on a high number and a dog that works on a really low number, and you accidentally hit the low dog with the high dog's number, they're going to be mad at you. I know it's a pain in the butt to have two of these in your hands, but if you have two dogs, I suggest having two different ones. That way you know which one goes to which. On here, it has an M and a C. The M stands for momentary. The C stands for continuous. So what the momentary means is if I press and hold this, all it's going to do is send a quick tap to the dog. The C, what it stands for is continuous. If I press and hold this down on continuous, it'll send a continuous stimulation to the dog for up to 10 seconds. After 10 seconds, it'll turn itself off for safety reasons. What we want this to be on is the C. So the way to change that is this tiny button right beside the on and off. It says M and C on it. You press and hold it down, and it cycles through. See, now it is on the C. You saw that there was a bit of a delay there in it, and that's there. That way, this won't randomly change itself. I've never actually had one to change on its own. But if you ever get the remote out and the M's there and the C's gone or whatever, just hold it down and cycle through until you get back onto the continuous. Okay? On this side right here, we have this T. Okay? When you first get this, this is set up as a vibrate. And you can feel that and actually hear it. With it vibrating through this table, you can tell that's a pretty intense vibrate. I'm going to change this. So now what I want you to think of this as is test or tone. Okay? So if you're sitting here using this and turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, and your dog's looking at you like an idiot, it's one of three things. Either you forgot to turn it on, it's too loose, or the dog's just been a turd. So a quick way to tell if you have it on, instead of chasing the dog around and seeing if this is blinking, now just press this. And if you hear it beeping, you know it's on and it's working, so it's one of the two options, okay? The reason why we don't use the vibrate is because, like I said, that's a pretty intense vibrate, and a lot of dogs, they work on lower numbers, and that could be more stimulating than the actual stimulation itself. So we want to give the dog stimulation based upon the numbers that they need. So we put it on the tone. Oh, I know it's working. My dog's just being crazy, so we gotta figure out how to make this work. This right here is your antenna. They say it has up to half a mile range. I've never physically tested it, measured it out, and tested it, but I've had my dogs on the other side of a lake and called them to me and stuff like that. So I know it has good range. I just don't know about the half a mile range. I've never physically tested it. This right here is your dial. It is a smooth dial. It goes from 0 up to 100. At 100, it says high. That's not a friendly high. Okay? So the key to this thing, it is a smooth dial. There's no clicks or anything to it. This is going to be your biggest enemy until you get used to it. Okay? One of the things I want you to practice is sitting here and holding this thing and trying to turn it up and guess what number you're on. Okay? Getting that muscle memory is how you're going to get used to this. I'll explain that a little more in a second. On this side, you have your stimulate buttons, okay? The black's the one we really want to focus on. This red button, what it is a boost button. So it will boost whatever number we have on here by 5. So if I have a 1, it'll send a 6. Some dogs that work on low numbers, like my Golden Retriever or my Belgian Malinois, my Goldie's on a 7, my Belgian Malinois on an 8. If I boost them by 5, it's going to be a little much for them, and they're going to be mad at me. So we just want to deal with setting our own number and giving the stimulation based upon the dog. So the black one's the one we're going to focus on, okay? The way that we're going to hold this, we're going to hold it in our left hand, okay? The reason why we're holding it in the left hand is because we're doing a right side heel, and we need to be able to control the leash, okay? With it in your left hand, with the back against your palm, you're going to take your booger picker right here and put it against the dial and your thumb, and you're going to turn this and sit here and play with this, okay? Like I said, when we are using this on most commands, except for 2, this is correct, except for 2 commands, we want to start out at 0, give the dog the command. If they listen, we never have to do anything. If they do not listen, we're going to go up between 3 and 5 each time, okay? So it's going to look like this. I'm going to say, Athena, come. She's like, no, I'm not coming to you. So we're going to turn this up between 3 and 5. Give the dog the command. When I repeat the command, I press the button. Okay? So it's Athena, come. She didn't come. 3 to 5, come. She still didn't come. 3 to 5 more, come. She still didn't come. 3 to 5 more, come. Now she has finally came. Okay? She was staring at a squirrel over here. She's super distracted. Now that she's over with you, she might still be a little antsy, but 31 might be really, really high. So what we want to do is always turn it back down to 0 when the dog has completed the command that we have asked them. Because now, like I said, she might be a little antsy still, but it might only take a 5 to get her to sit. Versus that 30 is going to be really high because she's not as distracted. So after she completes a command, we always go back down to 0, give her her chance, and then we do our 3 to 5 climb each time. Okay. We don't want to overstimulate the dog. We want to use the least amount of stimulation possible to get the dog to complete the task that we want them to do. Okay. The way that we're going to use this is going to be used as a communication device. This is never, ever, 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 ever meant to be a punishment device. Now, we can use this as a correction. What the difference between a punishment and a correction is, a punishment, the dog has no way to fix what is going on to make the punishment stop. A correction is, I'm sitting here giving the dog stimulation because the dog is blowing me off, not doing anything I want. The dog's able to stop the stimulation by doing the correct behavior. So what I'm saying is, I'm mad at this dog. I'm going to turn this thing up to 50, 60. I'm sitting here holding it, just watching the dog because I'm mad at the dog. That's a punishment. A correction is the dog is not setting and being a turd. I got it on a 7, and I'm sitting here just giving a couple little taps, and she's like, oh, okay. Well, she stopped the stimulation by doing what she was supposed to do. That's the difference between a correction and a punishment. The dog always has a way to stop the stimulation by offering the correct behavior. Okay. The two commands that are different that I was talking about is the off command and the heel command. So the off command is a very stern correction. Okay. The off is used for anything they are not allowed to do. Jumping, digging, stealing food, anything they're not allowed to do. With the off command, with like Athena, we're going to turn this to about a 20. And when we give the off command, we're going to press this at the same time. And the off command isn't just like the sit. We're not just going to be like off. We want to have a stern voice. Let her know she screwed up. So it's going to be off. And we're going to press the button and say the off at the same exact time to let her know, hey, this is not something that you're allowed to do. After a few times of this combination, hopefully she will learn whatever she's doing, she's not allowed to do. The second command that is different is the heel command. Okay, in the heel command, we are going to figure out what her working number is. And what I mean by working number is when she's out walking in a store or something, what number is going to get her attention? Okay, and that's going to be that base number. For her, it's about between a 8 to 12. Okay, so we're going to put it somewhere in there when we start healing. If she's a little more distracted and we're noticing that it's not working for her, we can go up a little from there. But if after a while, after she's gotten used to the store and it's calmed down, if you're noticing that it's a little more stimulating than what it was, we can turn back down. What I want you to realize is we don't really pay attention to this number. We pay attention to how the dog is reacting. If the dog is sitting over here twitching, yeah, we're probably a little high. If the dog is giving you the invisible middle finger and telling you, I don't want to do it, well, we're probably a little too low and we need to go up. Okay. The e-collar is an amazing tool if you use it correctly. It can be used incorrectly, and it can hurt your bond with your dog. It can cause the dog to completely shut down if you're using it incorrectly. But if you use it the way that I'm going to teach you how to use it, it can be a good thing. My dogs are super excited when they see their e-collar because they know that they're going to get to go out on an adventure, because that's the only time I put the e-collar on the dogs now. Well, for the first month or two, you're going to have it on her anytime she is awake and she's with you, okay? We're doing this that way she gets used to having it on. It's not just I immediately put it on and I stimulate you. We want it to be, oh, you've had this on all day and something just randomly bit your neck, okay? Now, after a couple months, if you notice you haven't touched the button in 2 or 3 weeks, we can move away from actually using this in the house and only put it on her when we are going outside on a walk or whatever we need to do. Okay. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to have you feel it, and I'm going to show you a few things with it. So what I want you to do, I want you to go ahead and put it in the palm of your hand and squeeze it and let me know when you feel it and what you're feeling. Okay, so we're on a 28, and you said it tickles. It's not hurting, but you're sitting there feeling it tense that muscle. Now what I want you to do is place it on your forearm, and we're going to do the same thing.
Yep.
Okay, see, that's a 13. So what I'm showing here is two things. One, placement. There's not very much muscle here in the palm of the hand, and there's usually some calluses and stuff like that. But we had to go all the way up to a 27 for you to feel it here. But once we placed it on that muscle right there, you cut it in half. You went from a 27 down to a 13. So what it's showing you is placement makes a big difference. So when we are putting this on the dog, what we want to do, we want to place it on the sides of the neck. Okay, that's where the two major muscles run, just like us. We don't have a lot of muscle on the trachea or on the spine. You could put it on there, but you'd have to be a lot higher on the numbers. Now, if you do put it on the trachea and you have it like way high and you're sitting there holding it and holding it, you could hurt the trachea. You could make the trachea a little sore or anything like that. So we want to have it on those two sides. When you are placing it on those two sides, like I said, we need it to be tight. When I say tight, we are checking under this buckle right here. We're going to be 3 fingers tight. So under this buckle, if we can get 3 fingers under it, we are good. If we can just get the tip of our pinky, it still should be fine. But if I can fit my whole hand up under here, it's going to be too loose. With it being too loose, what's going to happen is, one, we have to be a lot higher on the number for the dog to feel it. And when they do turn their head and it makes good contact, it's going to be too high. And 2, with it being loose, they can sit there and scratch at it, and it'll kick and move and cause sores. We don't want that to happen. Okay. Most owners at first, they say, "Oh my God, this is really tight." The dog has ate with it on, played with it on, taken naps with it on. She's perfectly fine with it on, but it needs to be tight for it to properly work.